do? The whole situation, good plan.
Just relax. Even if everyone else... Besides, I doubt Farina understands any more about what happened.
Thanks, Navia.
Best of luck to you.
Ah, finally, you're back. Well, how...
To be honest?
No. We're already very grateful that you were willing to help.
Well now, don't you all look disappointed? That was to be expected, of course. But don't let that stop you. I shall be terribly disappointed should you, my most anticipated foe, concede.
Since both parties are present, I declare that the trial regarding the magic show incident is now in session. Firstly, in order for the audience to understand the causes and results of the incident, could we please have Mr. Lyney explain?
Yes, of course. I will explain while Lynette demonstrates on stage. All the necessary items have been prepared.
Thank you, Mr. Lyney. In that case, I take your statement to be that you ran to and remained hidden within the magic box in the audience stands once the trick began, and thus could not have committed the crime. Is this correct?
Yes, that's correct.
In that case, I call upon the prosecution. Lady Farina, do you wish to refute his statement in...
Why, of course I do. Allow me to take the first shot and break this case wide open. Mr. Lyney is clearly... There is no way you could have been in the box the whole time if you were to abduct Halsey and murder Cowell. In fact, I'd say you were hardly in that tunnel at all.
That is simply your hypothesis based on the presumption that I'm guilty.
Oh, is that so? And if I may ask, what did you hear while you were inside your box?
The roaring countdown of the crowd, of course. That's how I kept track of the time and built anticipation for the finale.
And you didn't hear anything else at all? Nothing that might leave an impression of any kind?
No, nothing.
I see. But when the count reached 30 seconds or so, there was a thud. One so loud that I believe practically everyone heard it.
Huh?
Hey, hang on. Something's not right here.
Yeah, I'm sure he could have heard a noise that loud from inside the box.
I was right by the box and I definitely heard the thud.
Look at those scales. Could those mean...
Well then, ladies, and of course, I have armed myself to do far more than smash your alibi. Confidence cannot go unfounded, and Tell me, aren't you and Lynette actually from the House of the Hearth?
The House of the Hearth?
No wonder they did something like...
So the serial disappearances were the Fatsui's doing.
I've got a feeling that what happened on stage probably wasn't just an accident.
That's irrelevant. Our identities have nothing to do with what happened.
Indeed. Then perhaps you could tell us everything that happened during that 1 minute. Your first priority is to prove yourself innocent after all. I'm sure there is little that needs to be kept secret now. The Outlander is speechless. My, oh my, don't they look flabbergasted? Now comes the infighting and discord, I suppose. This was almost too easy. Good thing I made all those preparations. Seems the all-nighter I pulled last night is really paying off.
Hey, Lyney.
Order! Order! Mr. Lyney, allow me to re-establish the facts. Lady Farina has raised 2 points. First, when the thud was heard in the Opera House, you were neither in the box nor the tunnel. Second, you and Ms. Lynette are both members of the House of the Hearth. Are these claims true? Please answer my question.
I'm sorry. Yes, they're true.
I knew it.
Well, that's it. We might as well move on.
What should we do now?
Granted. In that case, what is your request?
Is that really necessary? They're already as...
The defendant deceived their own attorneys. What is there left to discuss?
Order! Your request is reasonable, and we shall adjourn.
So you would stick to Mr. Lyney's defense even after knowing what you do now? You certainly have more professionalism than I thought. In that case, my dear audience, let's allow the joy of victory to steep for a little while longer.
Well, this is awkward. I didn't think the Hydro Archon would dig all that up. I'm sorry, Travel.
Yeah. Paimon doesn't know where to start. We based our entire reasoning on the assumption that you weren't bad guys. Not to set the wrong tone or anything, but Paimon's really mad.
I'm very sorry. I know you're angry, and reasonably so, but I know you've clashed with the Fatui several times before. I wouldn't be surprised if but our organization is very, very large, and the Harbingers have very different personalities.
Right now, we want to save people. As many as we can.
That's right. I'm sure we're on the same page when it comes to this nation and the disaster that its people might face. I knew if it weren't for our respective identities, we could become... That's why I didn't wish to flat out lie to you, but chose to hide some details instead. The truth is very important, but being completely transparent about everything would see us spend... Right. So, you be the judge. Heck, if I were you, I fear that I'd even struggle to trust me at this point. You met a Fatus who works as a magician, a trickster by trade. All by coincidence, but still, I'm asking...
Sorry. Please forgive us.
Well, you both say that, but... Right, let's hear your answer first, and no lies...
Of course. I'll answer any question. We've been trying to find out how the Oratrice operates. We want to know why it has a consciousness. Why can it deliver sentences accurately? During our investigations, we learned that the machine's core is beneath it. From that moment on, Lynette and I have been designing this box swap trick, with the objective of getting close to the core.
Is that why you needed a whole minute?
That's right. In truth, the audience would take about 75 seconds to count down from 60, while I would only need 15 to get to the opposite box. So, after jumping into the tunnel, I accessed the Opera House basement via the vent, and went to investigate the room in which the core is...
That air vent was created during the construction of the tunnel specifically to execute this step.
Well, nothing. As soon as I reached that room and was about... Which should have been impossible, of course. I was quite certain that I was the only one in the... That voice seemed to recognize me and tried to speak to me. I chose to err on the side of caution and retreated the way I... On the way back, I saw the broken vase and the clothes on the ground. But the countdown was almost finished, so there... After that, the homicide occurred just as you saw.
Well, that explains why you didn't hear the thud.
Because of that prophecy I told you about, of course. We must know all we can about this nation's secrets in order to deal with that prophesized crisis.
That's the only way we can save everyone.
So, there you have it. The whole truth. It was never my wish to proceed under this cloud, but like I said earlier, you can be the judge.
Well, Traveler, you decide. Paimon will follow your lead however you choose.
Okay.
Thanks for giving us a...
The current problem is that if we want to refute the Hydro Arc... Huh?
Both parties have returned to their positions. Let us continue the trial. When last we left off, Mr. Lyney acknowledged the new evidence presented by Lady Farina as fact. Therefore, Lady Farina may continue stating her reconstruction of the events.
That took long enough. Now then, if everyone would lend me their attention, at this stage, let's revisit that scene from Lyney's perspective. As the countdown began, he entered the tunnel. When the flatbed trolley passed, he opened the box and got into an altercation with Halsey, which caused the loud thud. He did not realize that this sound could be heard by everyone in the opera house, which is why he claimed earlier that he could not hear the sound. Finally, he used the vase to knock her out, before making her change clothes to prevent others from recognizing her. At this time, Cowell arrived in the tunnel, having heard that strange noise, and caught Lyney red-handed. So Lyney proceeded to knock him out too before stuffing him into that box. Afterward, Lyney passed the unconscious Halsey to his accomplice through the magic box in the audience stands, before operating the devices such that Cowell's death would be ruled an accident. And there you have it. That's...
Does the defendant's side have any objections to
The key to refuting. Seems this won't produce a particular... According to Lyney, Lyney did not take part in the underground altercation. Lyney went to the room.
Attention! Ace Detective Paimon has something to say! When the countdown started, Lyney did indeed go into the tunnel. But he immediately used a vent to access the Opera House basement, which is where the underground core of the oratory system. Once he reached that area, the crime scene had already developed by the time he reached. Finally, he reached the surface, and that was when... Paimon did it! Paimon actually managed...
In other words, you believe...
That's right!
My reason...
If that's the case, assuming that what...
Oh, that?
That's right, you tell him! Well, your denial is... Of course... You're saying that he wasn't.
That's right! Lyney wasn't in. This means that when the crime happened, Lyney had already entered the same clue you used.
To think you'd use such logic. Well then, if it wasn't Lyney who committed the crimes, then who was it?
The deceased's name is Cowell, Lyney's assistant. he would have been able to tamper with the equipment. Halsey is the missing person and an ordinary audience member. Or did she have her own scheme all along? Could there have been a third person involved? The deceased's name is...
That can't...
Oh, is that so?
What I must do next is recreate the truth. What Cowell did, and how he went from No one entered or left the opera. The deceased's name is Cowell. Halsey's clothing was in the tunnel, so there must have been The sound we heard may have come from a clash between the missing Halsey. Lyney was not in the tunnel at that moment. It would have been tough for both. The sound we heard may have come from... Halsey's clothing was in the The deceased's name is The deceased's name is No one entered or left the opera house. Lyney was not in the tunnel. It would have been tough for both people to fit into that vent. They would likely have bumped into Lyney as well. No one entered or left the opera house through its entrances. Lyney was not in the tunnel at that... Halsey's clothing was in the tunnel. The sound we heard may have come from a clash. It would have been tough for both... No one entered or left the opera house through its entrances. The sound we heard may have come from... The sound we heard may have come from a clash between the missing... Halsey's clothing was in the tunnel.
What's wrong, Traveler? Are you still having trouble
I see how it is.
Look, since we're at a dead end, why not just like the trick is it...
If only we knew.
Well, that would be nice, but it's not like this is a magic trick where you...
If the defense is unable to make further effective arguments, we will move on to the next stage of the trial.
Lyney was not in the tunnel at that moment, which gave our criminal ample time. The sound we heard may have come from a clash. The deceased's name is Cowell. The vase was not broken by chance. It would have been tough for both people to fit in. Halsey's clothing was in the tunnel. No one entered or left. Halsey's clothing was in the vase was not broken.
Paimon gets it! It all comes together if Halsey disappeared instead of being kidnapped. Lynette escaped from the water tank, vanishing gradually and leaving only clothes behind. If there's a similar method where a person could be transformed into water...
Just a moment, please. How could a person ever be transformed into water? This is... Must we really? I should think that of anyone. Your friend Lyney already knows this truth. Magic tricks are ultimately just illusions and misdirection. But Halsey's disappearance is very real. We're talking about two completely
Even so, I trust the Traveler's judgment. The truth must be out there somewhere. Perhaps some new line of reasoning may open. Since Cal was the deceased, but given that we aren't making much progress with the case, it wouldn't hurt.
People really do come up with all sorts of harebrained schemes.
Nevertheless, I believe that this is a reasonable request on the part of an attorney. Since the trial does indeed appear to be at an impasse, I believe that additional evidence may help us make more progress. Guards, please step into the lounge and examine the personal effects of the deceased, Cal.
We are still examining the items, but we have already made critical progress that we feel must be shared with everyone post-haste. We discovered several test tubes of fluid within Cowell's baggage, each labeled separately. The notebook in his backpack claims that these fluids are water from the primordial sea.
The primordial sea?
The note's contents also indicate that Cowell belonged to an organization that sells illegal drugs and that he had an accomplice. The notebook has many entries concerning safe usage of these fluids, in which the keyword dissolve appears many times. One of these tubes was... The notes also state that these dissolution properties work exclusively on people from Fontaine. It's likely that Halsey was chosen as such. We believe that the defense's hypothesis is, in fact, supported by sufficient evidence.
You've got to be kidding! People dissolving into water?
Could something so ridiculous actually be true?
Wait a moment. This reminds me of a certain prophecy, but it's just a coincidence, isn't it?
Huh. If people can become water, does that mean that the water tank's real use was as a means to hide water stains? And if Cowell was targeting that girl... Wait just a minute. Could that mean... You two, with me, quick!
Demoiselle, wait! What about your partners?
Let's go. Just...
Order! Order! Still, let us... Guards, please continue Mr. Lyney, it appears your hypothesis is supported by...
Of course. If we uphold this hypothesis, I believe that many of this case's seemingly unrelated clues can...
Right! Like the metal hook! That one didn't make sense at all. Let's think about this. Cowell's methods must have something to do with that.
The deceased's name is the water from the primordial... The water from the Now it seems like the hook... The rope that held the water tank... Lynette was in the magic box on stage the entire time. I remember there was something else within the inner layer. The rope that held the water... Now it seems like the hook rope was not meant for another magic trick, but wasn't... The rope that held the water tank up was lit by the fireworks and snapped. As such, the water from the primordial... Lynette was in the magic box on... I remember there was something else with it.
It's Ace Detective Paimon's time to shine again! In the original plan, Cowell would tamper with the water tank rope and the number selector securing his target. When the magic box containing Halsey was lowered, the metal hook would retract gradually and pierce the balloon at the top of the box. When the balloon attached to the box, afterward, Cowell would enter the tunnel and break the flower vase to conceal the water inside the tunnel, with the remaining evidence being covered up by the water tank on stage. But he encountered something unexpected in the tunnel and wound up being fatally hit by the same water tank he meant to use to cover his tracks.
Huh. That does make...
That actually links together a lot of the more confusing pieces of it.
Oh dear, what do I do? Even I think they sound convincing now. Have I falsely accused an innocent person?
a humiliation.
Now, it seems like the only point of contention remaining is the exact circumstances that led to Cal's death. His notes mentioned he had an accomplice who could be related to the situation.
On that note, the guards have just I shall now invite him on stage.
Thank you, Your Honor. We were just and we found an identical sample of the water from the primordial sea among Lyney's personal effects.
What?
That can't be.
Does this not clear all doubt, my dear citizen? Lyney did not need to take, having made modifications that upon. Ultimately, he now as much as. Am I right?
We've used up all the Is this the end of...
Oh no. Paimon can't think of anything. Seems using the water as new evidence was too good a move. Why did this...
I think we've all seen enough now. I believe this is indeed... Now then, my good, no...
Excuse me, everyone.
Miss, I must ask you not to shout and to respect.
Oh, come on. Don't be hasty. I have a good reason for interrupting, you know. Now, would anyone here like to take a little break from all this debate and see a little magic? I'll show you an amazing trick. One that can bring a young woman who has disappeared back in the flesh, right before your very eyes. Please, do the honors, Mr. Lyney. If you would be so kind. What in the world is
No offense, miss, but miracles like that are beyond my scope as a magician.
Come on now, don't be silly. Magic is all about Once everyone believes the illusion, can't magic reveal the truth? And wouldn't such a... Come on, Lyney. But, as the magic makers and stars of the
I understand.
And voila.
Wait, isn't
To be clear, I'm only here because this person told me that if I testified, the merit of doing so would lessen my I was hiding outside this room listening to the proceedings because I was afraid that I would be the one put on trial. I was just feeling happy that no one had noticed me. And then before I knew...
That'll teach you to underestimate...
Where should I begin? I'm sorry. I'm the one who killed Cowl. I admit it.
What?
Firstly, my name isn't Halsey. It's Lillian, and I'm originally from Mondstadt. I heard that Lyney's show was gonna be a real thriller, but I missed the chance to buy a ticket, so I stole one. That's how I make a living. I steal stuff here and there. And I'd never been caught before. But I was noticed at the harbor a few days ago, and I barely got away. Lyney was the one who caught me in the act.
Hey, no wonder you look familiar. So you were the thief. Lyney even mentioned that you were pretty skilled.
Well, and I thought that he even mentioned the Fortress of Meripede. That's a prison, isn't it? So I played along with the show. I wasn't going to take that lying down. So there was nowhere to run from there, though. I slipped out after the first guard arrived at the scene and continued hiding inside the opera house.
Can a person even hide in there?
But I swear I didn't know that the water tank would fall down. Really, I swear it. Had I known that, I wouldn't have put him in the magic box. I may be a thief, but I'm no killer.
Well, that makes everything pretty clear now, doesn't
This time, we need to tell the entire story from Lillian. Seems... Hmm. 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 The strange sound. Hmm. Lillian. The flower vase.
And it's it! Having been selected, her panic only hearing the commotion, he did not know that Lillian was not from Fontaine, but was mistakenly believing that the water from the primordial sea needed time to take effect. The two broke the flower vase during the struggle, but Lillian came out on top, knocking Cowell out and putting him in the box. With no way of escaping, she changed her clothes and hid in the costume trunk until the performance ended.
She had already become desperately hungry by the time we were chatting over macarons. So, she swiped 2 of them right under our noses. Talk about...
At this point, all the events that happened in the tunnel have now come to...
so rather...
Now then, Lady Farina, please answer the question.
What are you No, I have no...
Wow.
If there are no objections, then as the Chief Justice, the actual perpetrator of the serial disappearances, Cowell, selected his next victim from the audience reservation list, with some modifications to the selector to cover up any evidence while committing the deed. He also tampered with the rope suspending the water tank, using the fireworks at the end of the... He poured the water from the primordial sea into a balloon. Finally, he passed the prepared hook on a rope through the gap in the magic box's door. When the magic trick officially began, the box containing the woman was lowered into the tunnel, tightening the hook rope and bursting the balloon containing the water. If all had gone to plan, the young woman would be dissolved at this time. However, Lillian was not from Fontaine, and thus fled the box with a loud noise. Realizing that there was trouble, Cowell entered the tunnel and met Lillian, thinking that the waters had not yet taken effect. However, his opponent was more capable than he thought, and he was overcome, knocked unconscious, and placed into the magic... Lillian, according to her own statements. As for Lyney, from this reconstruction of events... While there is much in Lyney and Lillian's conduct that should... This case, at least, can be handed over to the Oratrice to make... As such, Lyney and Lynette.
Great work, partner.
Thank you all. Thank you so much.
Next, I think we deserve an... How did you find the water from the primordial sea in...
Right! Your discovery caused me to make a serious mistake.
I suspect that the accomplice mentioned in Cowell's notes was... I'm sure you know what you must do to lessen your...
Speak quickly! Unless you want to earn yourself a one-way...
I was just following orders. We were supposed to place blame for the serial disappearances onto Lyney, and thus cause suspicion to fall on the Fatui.
And now that your plan has fallen through, therefore you would be wise to tell everything you know, and...
Yes, our boss. It can also be made. We've been in this...
And now he can no longer...
Such ruth...
An outrageous. All present, please submit to inspection immediately.
So, we're just going back now? That's...
Traveler, Paimon! Please wait.
Lyney...
I know you may not want to speak to me right, but still. I guess I didn't approach you with, as for why I'm a Fatus, that was how Father, who you might know as the Knave...
The Knave? The one who controls the House of...
That's right. And since we're here, I was wondering, back when our parent to survive, I took my sister through several... To my surprise, we proved to be pretty popular. Before long, an aristocrat came to me.
So you went from orphans to nobility?
That was how we felt at first, but I gradually... He would constantly...
That doesn't seem too...
After I waited The answer he gave me was...
Oh no.
As far as outsiders are concerned, I managed to ferret out. All I saw was the moon.
So...
That's right. Father, I mean, the knave, might have seen something in me. The House of the Hearth welcomes. I was hesitant to trust, but she was all...
Oh, so that's how...
She has gained permission.
So...
That's right. Today's case has all... Everyone at Hotel to us orphans.
So, from small...
It's all right. I just hope you could... If you should need anything at all...